And welcome back to the Tim Jones Radio Show. That was Torn Between Two Lovers by Mary McGregor. Ah, what a classic golden oldie. I'll be right back with more great pop hits after this message from Geico Insurance. Oh, hey! How you doing? I was just wrapping up my shift as a DJ on View from the Bleachers Radio. The reason I'm in this studio is to share a story of a time when I was on the airwaves a long time ago. Okay, in my day I was no Casey Kasem or even a poor man's Wolfman Jack, but I could spin the discs as well as the next DJ. That is, if only our radio station used records. Everything was on the equivalent of 8-track tapes back then. Yes, I am that old. The year was 1977, and I was just 22, just out of college, and I was working minimum wage for a top 40 radio station in Charlottesville, Virginia, WCHV. The story I'm about to share turned out to be one of the most gut-wrenching nights of my entire career. And it happened on my very first night on the air. More on the other side. What I'm about to describe is a 100% true story. I was working at this radio station part-time, doing mostly clerical tasks like a glorified intern, waiting for my chance to someday get on the air. But in order to do that, I had to take a course to earn my third-class radio operator's license. This would qualify me to be on the airwaves and continue to make photocopies for the full-time disc jockeys. But I finally passed the test, and I received my third-class radio operator's license, and that meant that sooner or later, I'd be able to get my chance and be on the air. That's a photo of the studio where I would finally get my big break. And that break came several months later at precisely 11:30 on a Tuesday night. I was lying on the couch at the time. I was lying there and hacking and sniffling with a temperature. And I was too weak to get to the bed, so I just crashed on my couch. I was sicker than a dog, whatever that means. So anyways, it's 11:30 at night. The phone rings. It's the station manager. Tim, Chris Furlong is under the weather. He can't do his midnight shift. I've called literally everybody and nobody is available. So what do you say, kid? Want to be on the air? Tonight? I wheezed. However sick Chris Furlong might have been, I'm sure I was feeling 10 times worse. So naturally, I answered, absolutely, boss. Thank you. And he said, sure you're feeling all right, buddy? I never felt better. I'll be right over. I arrived at the station at 11:50 for the midnight to 6 a.m. shift. And at the stroke of midnight, the previous shift's jock raced out of the studio like Cinderella fleeing from the ball. That's Charlie Sachs, the 8 to midnight DJ. He liked to dress up all the time. Anyway, at that precise moment, it suddenly dawned on me. I was totally alone in the building. The fate of WCHV was on my shoulders alone. Nevertheless, it was an incredible thrill to be in the chair with the on-air sign lit up as I spoke into the microphone for the very first time. That's a photo of me on the air. No, wait, now that I look more closely, that might be Howard Stern. We looked so much alike back in the day. Well, I remember my very first words on the air. And they were, "Good evening, this is Tim Jones." I quickly pounced on the mute button as I fell victim to an uncontrollable 10-second coughing fit. "I'll be spinning the records till sunrise, so if you have no life, please join me for the next 6 hours. I thought I was being witty and cool. I thought a lot of things about myself that were dead wrong because, well, like I said earlier, I was 22 years old. I cranked out one song after another. The Bee Gees' Staying Alive, Crystal Gale's Don't It Make My Brown Eyes Blue, followed by Debbie Boone's You Light Up My Life. I never said that 1977 was the golden age of pop music. Let's be clear about this. Well, there I was, dishing up the vinyls, 8-track tapes, and even handling the switchboard, all by myself. Now, when the national news played at the top of each hour, I was required to take what's called a meter reading to make sure the station stayed within the proper frequency or wattage or amperage or barometric pressure. I had no clue what the reading was for. All I knew was that there were buttons marked 1 through 10, and I had to press 3 of them in a very specific sequence, and then I simply write down the number that appeared on the readout. A trained chimpanzee could do it. Well, it turns out I was no trained chimpanzee. At 1 o'clock, I prepared for my very first meter reading. Piece of cake. Just press 3 buttons in order. 4, 7, 3. No, wait, maybe it was 4, 3, 7. Or was it 8, 2, 5? My mind was a complete blank. I recalled from the final exam of my third-class radio operator's license that it was a legal requirement for these readings to be taken at the top of every hour, or else we could be fined by the FCC. Or was it the FDA? Or the NBA? I can't remember. But I only had a window of 3 minutes. The clock was ticking. My foggy, congested brain simply could not remember the sequence. My palms started getting clammy. I sneezed. I felt like that TV bomb squad cop who can't remember. Is it the green wire or the red wire? Lives were at stake, specifically mine. And there were only 10 seconds left. Here goes nothing. Cringing, I pressed 4, then 7, then 3. Kaboom! The instant I pressed the third button, a thundering sound exploded outside the studio. All the power was shut down. Every single light went out. I had barely made it 1 hour into my first radio gig, and I succeeded in knocking us off the air. I had committed the cardinal sin of commercial radio: dead air. I was going to be fired for sure. There I was, alone, in complete darkness. I couldn't see my hand in front of my face. I lost all spatial orientation. I groped along the wall in search of the phone. Amazingly, despite my having taken down the entire radio station, somehow the phone still worked. So I called the production engineer and woke him up, and he arrived 20 minutes later, and he fired up a backup generator. And so 30 minutes after I had killed the station, not to mention my brief radio career, I was back on the air. I sheepishly apologized to all 5 remaining listeners for the gap in our broadcasting. Well, the rest of the night passed uneventfully. I even dared to play Paul Anka's annoyingly drippy song, "You're Having My Baby." What a god-awful song. There are polka songs that are less annoying than that. By 6:30, I was back at home. I had survived. But then the phone rang. It was the station manager, and I winced as I prepared to hear him growl, "You're fired!" But his words took me completely by surprise. "So, Tim, how about trying it again? Tonight, Chris Furlong is still sick." And I said, "Are you serious?" "Absolutely, boss, but what about my knocking the station off the air?" I inquired meekly. The station manager laughed. "You thought that was you? That's hilarious. No way, buddy." Turns out that some drunk driver drove into a power box and took out the power in the whole neighborhood, and apparently at the precise moment that I pressed that third button. What are the odds? "Tim, be there by 11:45 p.m. and try not to press the wrong buttons this time. Okay, buddy?" "Got it. Oh, one more thing, boss. What is the correct code sequence?" "Boss? Hello? Hello?" Well, I found myself alone again, talking to dead air, because my boss had just hung up on me. Well, that's the view from the bleachers. Perhaps I'm off base. I'm Tim Jones, and remember, if you like this video or simply feel sorry for me, please click on the subscribe button below and share this with any of your friends or anyone you'd like to annoy. And for more of my humor, you can always check out my website, viewfromthebleachers.net. Well, I gotta go. This is Tim Jones saying thanks for joining me. Hey, and don't go anywhere, because coming up next, it's the wacky Mark Pryor Show right after this brief timeout.